Hello and good morning, Eorzea. Amadeus Aeon back here once more, and today's topic is going to be, of course, you guessed it, leveling. Only this time we're adding a few more details, you could call them, or more information, based upon the recent update which we received in 4.4, which is of course a new deep dungeon, none other than Heaven on High. But let us quickly recap anyway on the various methods and ways of which we can earn EXP through Final Fantasy XIV second expansion, Stormblood. Because this would not be a guide, of course, without the information needed to make it such a guide. So, without further ado, let's begin, shall we? So first off, the methods of which to gain EXP in Final Fantasy XIV in general consists of various things. That being Lev quests, which can be found in various locations throughout all of Eorzea, the Southern Shroud, the Black Shroud, Thanalan, and Lominsa. And these Lev quests, of course, are just little things you can do solo on your own time, or with a friend, or with a small party, if you choose to. And these quests are something that give you just a bit of EXP. Now, obviously, for Stormblood's case, this was kind of supplemented and generally removed from the leveling system because they wanted to try some new things, you could say, and get a new look, if you will, for this expansion. So, Lev quests are not important for Disciples of War. However, they are quite important for your Disciples of Hand and Disciples of Land. These Lev quests you will unlock as you level your Disciples of Hand or Disciples of Land naturally. So, after you've hit, let's see, about level 62, 63 range, this is when these leave quests will be available to you. And essentially, the location that you'll be traveling to and from to get these leaves for Disciples of Land and Disciples of the Hand only is in the beautiful and wonderful city of Kugane in Hingashi. This place, of course, is locked behind main story content, so if you haven't progressed this far, I highly suggest you do so. And once you've hit about level 63 and you've completed the main story quests, which takes you from Eorzea, or rather more specific, Lominsa, you'll be traveling across the Siren Sea Song, which is one of your dungeons you will receive during this main story quests. And then you'll be right into the thick of it of the beautiful city of Kugane with all at your wonder to explore and resources for you to use. For this is a city-state in itself, Kugane, so you have access to aetherites, an inn room, retainer bells, crystal bell in the inns, and just general market board for, you know, your crafters, your gatherers, hence why this is the place you want to be, because of those Lev quests we mentioned, but this is only important if you're leveling crafters and gatherers. As far as battle goes for Kugane, there is something you can gain from here to gain battle experience points. Now you'll ask, what is that? Well, what that specifically entails is that, like Heaven's Ward in my previous guide, if you haven't seen it, they have the hunt system, which is in place. Which basically, you'll pick up a few things from the hunt board within Kugane itself, and from there is where you will get a little bit of EXP. Now these hunt marks will go into your key-in items here. Little icon that looks like that on my hotbar. The little satchel bag with quest mark on it. And then your key items menu will look something like this. And from here you will get, if you're not familiar with hunting at all, then you unlock it by your Grand Company to start if you're in A Realm Reborn, or if you're going into Heaven's Ward without having done your Grand Company hunts, then maybe you'll unlock it in the Broom. More specifically, the Lost Night, which is a pub in the lower part of Ishgard. Which again, it's also another area that's required that you have reached up to that story point to get to. But other than that, with the hunts, they give you a small amount of EXP. It's not a large amount, but it is decent sum of EXP. About, I'd say, 400k worth of EXP, which is pretty good for something that you can do on the daily. So I'd highly recommend that you use them at your own leisure for Disciples of War. Now, the next thing within Stormblood, of course, like all areas that we have, of course, within this game, there are what are called fates, or basically timed action events which occur in the real world of Eorzea and beyond. I guess we can generalize this and just say Hydaelyn. Whereas these fates are like sort of mini boss battles, if you will, or trials, you could call them, which can be done solo or with a party, just like the Lev quests. And in order to guarantee success, you have certain objectives or agendas to fulfill. Now, once those are met, then you get your reward, which is the experience points from doing said fates. Now, to consolidate or make these just a little more active, the dev team of 14 decided for Stormblood specifically, which is what we're talking about here, to add a little bit of a extra EXP push or boost to these. And these are marked by key gold symbols on your map. When you're in an area, like any area that's Stormblood related, you'll have this little gold marker on the fates, which denotes that you can earn bonus experience by completing that fate. Now, this bonus experience, much like the hunts, it's not a huge amount, but it is decent. It can range from anywhere from 200,000 to about, let's say, 750,000. So it's really worth your time if you're got nothing else to do, or you're trying to level like other jobs. It's a very just unique and sort of simple and easy method, just like I said, the Lev quest system and the hunt system, where you can just do this solo or with a party. So it really is to your benefit to do these. Now, the other thing besides those is, of course, dungeons. Now, dungeons, we all know what those are. We don't have to go into too much greater detail. They're typically a light party duty performed through the duty finder itself, which consists of a healer, a tank, and 2 DPS. So 4-man party. Now, dungeons give quite a lot of EXP, which is why, for the most part, it's your best bet to get enough EXP for you to gain at least half of a level to a new level itself. And the reason for that is because as you're chain killing all the mobs, and specifically the bosses themselves within the dungeon, that EXP scales upward on a certain ratio based upon your level and the level of most of your party members. So, let's say, for example, you're trying to bump yourself up, since the cap is 70 in Stormblood here. So let's say you're trying to boost your Dragoon to, let's say, from 64 to 65. So you're going to queue up for a dungeon, of course. And in that dungeon, you'll want to look at other people's levels as well. So let's say your healer is just 1 level below you, while the rest of everyone else is the same level as you. So they'll just kind of balance the EXP just a bit so that everyone's getting their fair portions. It's a very intricate but unique system, and it really does pay out good. So I'd highly suggest paying close attention to that. Not only that though, but as you're doing all these things to gain EXP, so to speak, you'll want to be using what are known as free company buffs, or in other words, free company actions. Now these are typically controlled by your free company leaders, so it can be a bit daunting and sometimes stressful to try and ask and say, hey, may I please have an EXP buff? Thank you. Whereas some guilds are a little more, let's say, not so casual friendly and prefer raiding, as an example, and they may not as be open as to your request for EXP as other guilds would be. If that's the case, and let's say the whole point of you wanting to level is so that you can do the raiding with that group, then what I would suggest then doing is looking at an alternative route, which was also created here for Stormblood, and that is the NPC squadrons, which is, as the name suggests, NPCs, non-playable characters, which you recruit by doing challenges within your challenge log here. So I'll show you here the challenge log, for example, here. By completing various objectives within this challenge log itself, you have the chance to find or recruit an NPC to your squadron. Now, initially, since the system is balanced and structured primarily around, dungeons, so it's this just 4-man party, you typically only need to recruit just one other NPC, because when you start the quests, which this quest, by the way, will start you right after you've obtained the lieutenant rank, the first lieutenant rank in your grand company, which you can easily get this as early as like 40 or 50. So it's definitely something that would be another benefit for you to use when you're trying to gain experience. Not only that, but this is also more casual and more solo friendly for you to do as a leveling method itself. Because what these NPCs do for you in particular is you can actually queue up for specified dungeons within their lists. And if you are not familiar with these squadrons and how they work, I also have another guide on my channel explaining how squadrons function and they work. I would suggest taking a glance at that if this is something that interests you more in particular. But for the sake of this video, I'll just summarize that. Basically, you are the commander of this squad, and you will command these NPCs using special actions, which can be accessed via your actions and traits by going to orders. And as you can see, there's two tabs. There's a companion and a squadron tab. You'll hit the squadron tab, and then you have your actions here, which there's a separate hotbar tab if you're for the PC and you prefer simple clicking over, you know, holding buttons. But if you are on the PS4 like myself, truly, then you'll want to set these to your cross hotbar in a more sort of convenient place where they're not obstructing your own hotbar, of course, where you can execute these orders here to make it easier to use these squadron mates. And the EXP is equivalent of like the regular dungeons which you are trying to queue up for, so it is something that can help you when leveling, let's say, an alternative job from your main. But keep in mind, however, because this is still something being updated, that the squadron missions themselves are only carrying so far up to level 60. So, with that in mind, you'll typically only want to keep these squadron mates available if you're below like level 60 and you want to try to get that job to level 60 so you can use some of the other leveling methods which we already discussed in this video so far. Now, besides doing your dungeons and your fates and your quests, your love quests and hunts, there's also side quests, which are just quests you accept from the various NPCs on your map. You can find them by opening your map, and then by looking at the map itself, you'll see NPCs marked with an exclamation point and a little bit of a little yellow circle encompassing that exclamation point. Those side quests will give you some EXP and sometimes also give you an extra reward of, like, let's say, leveling gear. Normally it will be high quality gear, or sometimes these quests will reward you with accessories and or a weapon itself for the main job, or maybe the alt job or jobs that you're trying to level. And as for the experience reward from these quests, they're usually typically about they can go scale up to 400k, so it's about the same as if you were doing, say, fates or hunts again. But there are a lot of side quests, and a lot of them chain together to form other side quests, so you'll be getting quite a nice little sum of EXP from doing this. So if you can see those NPCs either in front of you or on your map with those exclamation points, you should definitely do them if you have the time to. If the dungeons are not really your style of grinding for EXP, then the side quests and other things are there available to you for your own personal use. Now, the other thing besides all that is your roulettes, your daily roulettes. These can be found from the duty finder here as I'm displaying for you. You have besides excluding your expert and your level 70, of course, because 70 is your main goal here for this particular expansion. So what you'll want to focus on is level 50 through 60 dungeons roulette, your leveling roulette, trials, main scenario, alliance, guild, normal, and also front lines. Now you'll say, what does PvP have to do with leveling? Well, since this expansion started, the dev team added experience points as a optional or bonus reward for completing PvP matches. So you can jump into typically a frontline match because those seem to be the most popular and the most accepted or in style for this particular game here. But the experience points for these will scale with your level is how they designed the system. So say you're queuing up as let's say a level 60, let's say 68 healer. You just want to get some nice fancy EXP from doing some player versus player, PvP for short. Then you can do that and it will scale with your level at the end of the match. So depending on how high or how low you are, you may get more or less EXP. But typically, if you're a higher level, they will match the appropriate reward for that level of yours. But also keep in mind, though, that winning in PvP is what most matches is about, is that you want your team to be the winning side. And this is incredibly true if you're leveling another job here, because the winning side, the winning team at the end of the match, those parties will receive an additional amount of EXP for being declared the victor. Now this isn't like a huge bonus, but it is quite significant, however, and this does help a lot. So if that's another option that you would prefer, rather over waiting as, say, a DPS in grueling and long excruciating queue times as you're trying to find a healer or a tank who isn't already at that end game stage of like raiding and primals and such, then this is a method for you to use at your own pace and enjoy doing, as either, like I said, with most content here, with a party, or on your own solo. So, with that in mind, so far we've covered quests, lev quests, roulettes, dungeons, fates, hunts. That's a lot of things so far, I realize. And there's still a couple more things to go over, but bear with me, if you will, and stay with me here. The next thing with which we were given for EXP is achieved after you've completed the main scenario of this expansion, Stormblood. And that, of course, is the Beast Tribes. Now, if you've been watching my guides, you'll know that we've mentioned this before, but I'll briefly summarize once more because this is a guide video and we want you to understand how to do things and get through the game itself. Because some of you may be starting the game for the first time and you may have wanted to or decided to start the game right here at this current level of the expansion Stormblood, which the dev team has graciously offered up to you and to me as players, sort of optional sort of thing to buy. Now that's a thing that most people are already getting scared of hearing and wanting to click away, but hold on for just a moment, please, as I explain. Now, what they've added is what's called a jump potion in most MMOs, where this potion gives you instant level, basically. But it's not something that's super cheap either, though. It costs typically about $25. In my currency, that is, USD, United States dollars. I'm sure it would be different, say, if you were for living in Europe or Asia or another part of the world, but for myself personally, it's typically $25 American, so it's definitely not something that's cheap. But you can have the option to use it if you're, like I said, you're not a more casual paced player and you just want to join your group of friends or family members to get to that endgame slash rating and primals. So this jump potion will give you instant jump to 60. Now yes, I said 60, not 70. No, 60, because the dev team wants you to play this game, okay? They don't want you to just think that you have to play the game just to get to that very end game content, you know, and do what you will do with that, whether it's improving your skills, getting as high as you can be in the gear levels, being the best at these super hard and challenging fights, etc. Then you know, the dev team kind of decided, you know, they don't want that to be the main focus of this game. What they want this focus to be is basically for you to enjoy like all the game has to offer, basically. So that's why this potion, this jump potion or leveling potion, whichever you prefer to refer to it as, is optional, completely optional, and not a mandatory thing. So, but anyway, continuing on, as you've finished the Stormblood's main scenario, you'll get Beast Tribes, 2 to be exact, which deal with the Disciple of War jobs, and then 2, which or actually, sorry, scratch that, 1. I was getting ahead of myself there, but 1 that deals with crafting, and they've decided to be actually a little bit more lenient and friendly towards gatherers this time in the Beast Tribes. And the Stormblood Beast Tribe here, meant for crafting, also benefits gatherers as well. So that's a really nice and kind gesture for them to start going towards that route for this particular Beast Tribe. But the other 2 tribes, of which you will see and unlock, will give you the XP for your Disciples of War. And again, this is working on more scaling systems, whereas the higher level, the higher EXP you will receive. And typically, like all the other Beast Tribes in my other guides I've mentioned, you'll get 3 quests a day to do, which are up to, or about, let's say, they're about 150 to all the way up to 400 or 500 EXP, 500k, 500,000 EXP points. So, and plus that number only increases further as you've reached the max reputation with the Beast Tribe you're working with. So you'll get even further EXP, along to be tied with your buffs, of course, Which, speaking of buffs, I forgot to mention some. I apologize. Other than relying on your free company, like I said, some free companies are not as willing or open to sacrifice some buffs over the others for their more casual players. Then the other buffs which you can use, there's certain again with the buying thing, Mog Station items. They're completely optional, of course. You're not required to buy them, but they do offer a bit of a small portion of EXP buffs. But typically, they're only geared toward like lower levels. And the reason for that is because they want the lower levels to get caught up with all the rest of us. So that's why when they make stuff like this, they try to center it down towards those who are at the very bottom of the food chain of the economy of 14, you know. Those who are just fresh, just starting out, wanting to try this game for the first time. That's what they make this optional stuff for, is for them, not for veteran players like myself or maybe yourself, but they make that for us so that we, or they, I should say, have a chance to get all caught up while enjoying all Final Fantasy XIV has to offer. And so, besides that, the other optional item, which is an in-game item, so this does not require that you have to buy an optional item at all. This is included, okay, with the game itself, the base game, and that is called the Novice Ring, or the brand new ring, which unlocks very early after you've achieved, I believe it's level 20, and you've traveled to Limsa Lominsa, doing a quest that's called, I believe it's probably Pirates, which is level 15, I believe, quest. And so that quest will take you to a place called the Novice Hall, where you learn about you know, roles and what they do within dungeons. So say by roles, I mean like your tank, your healer, your DPS. You'll be learning more about those there, but once you've completed the little training with them, which is again completely optional, you can do this anytime you want. It's always going to be there, but it's highly recommended for the sake of this guide that you go do this, because that brand new ring boosts the experience you've gained up to level 30, mind you, by 30%. And that percentile gets increased further as you gain more levels. So, and along with that sort of buff, if you will, this can get further increased with rested EXP, which is basically EXP that was stored up as you were logged out, and then comes compiling all back on to you as a percentile. And typically these rested EXP will be displayed as a little crescent moon symbol next to your experience bar, which is displayed on your screens. And that crescent moon symbol means that you have EXP which you have slept on, and that EXP will grow steadily as you do content for leveling. And like I said, this goes by a percentile. Then the other thing that can help increase that percentile of EXP that you are gaining is by reaching the cap level for an expansion. So let's say you've just achieved level 50, for example, from A Realm Reborn. That will give you what is called the Armory bonus, which this is a percentile, which again, like the other items that we've mentioned here, scales how much EXP you are given by completing various things, dungeons, fates, leaves, etc., etc. And those will help you out a lot. Now, moving on aside from all these buffs that you can receive to help you gain more EXP, we have yet another feature which was recently added, as I said in the beginning of this video, called the Deep Dungeon. Much like in our other guide I have is Palace of the Dead, for example, whereas it's more geared and centered toward lower level jobs, levels 1 up to level 50, but can also be used to gain 50 up to 60. This is very much the same thing, this Heaven on High. To gain access to this is actually very early on in the story of Stormblood. Right after you've reached Kugane, in fact, and at the same time where you're getting hunts, you can also have the chance to unlock this deep dungeon here. Now, you'll have to be, of course, level 63 or 64 to even get past this quest that I'm going to explain to you about. This main story quest is called Tide Comes In, Imperials Go Out. A level 63 main scenario quest, which is tied to an area in Stormblood known as the Ruby Sea. Now here, within the Ruby Sea, is this staggering and very tall tower that looks sort of like a Jenga game. And that's kind of like the main idea there, is that you're just going to hike and climb this incredibly tall tower. Now, as you go through this tower, which is kind of funny, it's an exact opposite of what Palace of the Dead was, which was going deeper and deeper and deeper and down, 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 down. Only now we're going up, 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 up high to heaven. So I guess in a sense you could say, first we were in hell and then we climbed to heaven. Quite the nice little spiritual message there, is it not? But in any case, this Heaven on High works very much the same to this deep dungeon. You have an ether pool level, which if you level it, decide to level it, it helps you survive this deep dungeon a lot easier and get through it much quicker. Also, to note, as you're getting this ether pool, that it gives you the chance to also get an additional weapon by creating what they've now dubbed as sort of materials needed, or I believe they're called grips. And these grips that you receive from sacrificing basically 10 points of your ether pool, I believe it was. And you need a total of 10 grips in order to forge an ether pool weapon. This weapon's item level is 365, I believe. Sorry if I seem a bit uncertain of myself here. I haven't really personally tried to make a weapon from this myself. But you're going to take the 10 grips, exchange them with an NPC there in the Ruby Sea. To be more exact of the location, it's the Onokoro Aetheryte with which you'll go to, and then you'll head over to just to the left of that Aetheryte, and you'll find these 3 pirates standing, much kind of like House of the Dead, like I said, and they'll be labeled with specific names. You'll speak to one of the NPCs there and exchange the grips for a weapon. The weapon being, of course, like I said, 365. But you won't be able to equip this weapon, however. Even if you do get it, you won't be able to equip it until you are level 70, the cap. But if you do decide to collect the weapon, it will be something for you to have just a sort of a little boost to get to where you want to go and what you want to achieve when you reach the end game. So it's definitely not something too painful or bad, and it also helps give you quite a lot of EXP experience points while doing this as well. By clearing, the same as with Palace of the Dead, 10 floors, you get a bunch of EXP based upon your level. Again, more level scaling. I've said that a lot in this video. I do realize that. But that's how they design their system, is to have it scale upward based on how high your level is or how low. But it's really fast. There are no role restrictions whatsoever to get through this deep dungeon. It's open to all roles, so you would have, say for example, a group of all tanks, or all healers, all DPS, or a group of like 3 DPS and a tank or a healer, or a group of 2 tanks, a healer, DPS, etc., etc. Because there are no role restrictions, and you can queue up for this with everybody and all roles. So this helps kind of cycle through this queue wait time, if you will. So your queues will typically be anywhere from basically 5 to 10 minute waits. It's not too terribly difficult at all. It makes it a lot easier for, like I said, the DPS classes, which typically don't have very good roulette or dungeon queues. So this helps them out immensely. And the EXP is fairly good for it, so it's something that you'll want to take advantage of for sure. Now, while I got sidetracked, of course, I do realize I forgot to go back to our Beast Tribe friends. Now, there's 2 Disciple of War Beast Tribes. That's the Ananta tribe of the Fringes area, and then the Blue Kojin, sorry, I almost said the red guys. Red ones are the bad ones, don't go to them. The Blue Kojin of the Ruby Sea. And again, this is something that you will have access to after you've completed Stormblood's main story quest. So it's just something that will be there if you're leveling an alternative job. So don't take this to be something you'll have automatically on your main job. Your main job will focus on the side quests, the fates, the dungeons, roulettes, and of course, when available, that Heaven on High, Palace of the Dead, deep dungeons basically, and all the solo content basically that you can do will be something you'll focus on with your main. But of course you can also go back and do said solo content on the alternative jobs as well. But to be more specifically, like I said, these beast tribes will be something that you will not receive until the Stormblood's main scenario quest is completed. So So you have these in reserve for your alternative jobs after your main has reached that cap and your ultimate goal. But these beast traps, again, like I said, they reward some pretty good XP. It's definitely worth doing them. And combining all that together, if you do your hunts, your roulettes, some dungeons, you don't have to do like dungeon spamming like forever. Like you can take your time with doing dungeons and all that. Or even what I do personally myself is while I'm waiting for the dungeon queues and stuff like that, I will do some hunts or fates or side quests or beast tribe quests while I'm waiting for these queues to pop up for my DPS role or healer or tank, whichever one I'm trying to level. These optional little leveling systems and stuff definitely help pass the time as you're waiting for those queues to pop up. And they give you quite the nice chunk of experience as well. But again, if you're someone who's impatient or does not have a lot of time on your hands to play during the weekend or during the week itself, then this option to get a fast queue through deep dungeons or even PvP, for example, is definitely a good sort of benefit for you to use. And this will help a lot. So that about covers everything in regards to leveling for Stormblood. If you, like I said, if you take advantage of all these benefits at your disposal, along with the EXP buffs from free company gears that you would see in-game or outside game, and even the other buff I forgot to mention, I apologize for forgetting things here, but food that you can buy from vendors, either NPCs or from the market board, or ask a culinary friend to make for you. The food also gives you a portion of EXP. For example, I'll show you one of my foods right here. Has an EXP bonus of plus 3%. So again, with the percentile things, you have a higher percentile, then you're going to get a whole lot of EXP on the job that you're leveling. So definitely take advantage of all of those buffs when you can, or if you are able to. I know that some people are not incredibly rich or wealthy and can't afford the optional stuff that Square Enix is trying to offer us players to make the experience a little more enjoyable and relaxing to do. Then the other options are there for you: the deep dungeons, the roulettes, which the roulettes, by the way, themselves, more specifically main scenario quests, and those raid roulettes now have gone above and beyond what all the other roulettes do, and they've actually scaled the EXP reward incredibly high because they want people to do these roulettes. The EXP can be anywhere from 1,000,000 points of experience. That's insane, yes, I know. 1,000,000 points of EXP. And they're definitely very, very useful to help you get past that sort of huge gap of time that you may or may not have. If you have the time, then I would suggest fully immersing yourself in this wonderful and beautiful game that we have been given by Final Fantasy XIV's development team and Square Enix staff members who are on the team. So, That's if you have the time. Like I said, I realize not everyone has that option of having time on their side to enjoy this wonderful game. Therefore, if you are one of those people who do not have so much time to enjoy, then take advantage of things such as the deep dungeon and PvP, just those things that will push you through the levels at a little faster pace. Not by much, because your roulettes are restricted by daily. You have to log in daily to receive the reward, as well as some of the additional solo content also has to be done by daily or by weekly. So that's another thing that requires that you be logged in anyways to do. But again, just things you should be doing anyway if you're wanting to find some progress and reach your ultimate goals in the end. But in any case, I want to thank you for being here for this guide video. I hope you found the information pertained within helpful and useful, and you will use it to your benefit, for that is why I am here making this for you. So that we can all be on the same page, all be enjoying the game together, and having a grand old time here in Final Fantasy XIV. My name is Amadis Aeon, of course, and you will see me with more updates and more videos in the future. Please be looking forward to that. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.